Hello and welcome back to another video where I don't edit anything, but today I'm going to make this a little easier on both of us, and I'm just going to start yapping with this outline that I made, and we're going to talk about Lanterns Season 1, Episode 1, and this is going to be very, very quick, I think. So, first of all, I can't believe I'm talking about this show. Second, it's a great show, even just based off of Season 1, Episode 1. I wanted to get this out before episode 2, but that didn't happen, so that's perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through a series of screenshots that I took from the show, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. And then I do have a couple of theories that I'll touch on, but I do want to warn you right now that if you don't want spoilers for this show, Watchmen 2019, Fargo, the TV series, basically anything that's come out in the past 5 years, I would just exit off of this video. It's probably for the best. So, let's see what we have going on here. The first thing I want to point out is when the kids are watching TV and it says Hal Jordan was born for the role he would eventually play, that's the interviewer talking to Hal Jordan. And the bay that we're shown, it's a typical airline or like airplane bay, especially if you like restore airplanes, or if you've ever seen a hangar on any type of like airplane movie. This is what they look like in California. I think is probably where this is shot. But it reminded me a whole lot of Top Gun. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to watch this show so bad is because I was getting really big Fargo and Tom Cruise vibes off of it. So we'll get to that in a second. This shot was interesting of the kid because he says, "We're so dead." And I have a lot of theories about Stranger Things and like recycled souls and stuff like that. And I'm really wondering if we're not seeing some of the same here, where are we dealing with some kind of weird consciousness situation? Because I think we might be. And this is the question that Hal Jordan tells the interviewer. He was asked, "Are you afraid?" Hal Jordan says every kid's worst fear is losing a parent. And then after that, there is nothing to fear anymore. And actually, as I'm recording this, I actually just came up with another really good thought and theory, but we'll get to that at the end. I don't want to get distracted because if I do, we're going to be here for 5 hours, and I'm trying to keep this under 15 minutes. I love this shot of the kid. It says Hal something after the father asked what his name was, what Hal Jordan's name was, and you know, if we're dealing with consciousnesses, Hal being in front of a tiny child is pretty funny. Here's a shot of their living room. The picture in the upper right I thought was interesting because it's one of those like vases that kind of looks like, if you look at it from one way, it looks like one image, but there's also just like a bunch of vines coming out of it. It kind of looks like the same picture that was in, I think, Dead or Final Reckoning on the train. So we got this father, excuse me, we got this father coming in talking to his children, or what I can assume are all of his children. And then this is, we're not going to cover everything in the episode because we would again be here forever. This is after Hal flies off to Oklahoma. And then this is when he's in court and he's like, "I'm Green Lantern." So at the beginning, when I said that the hangar bay kind of reminded me of Top Gun, this courtroom reminds me of A Few Good Men. You Can't Handle the Truth, one of Tom Cruise's other movies. So then we get this guy who I'm pretty sure. So this is the father-in-law of the woman that the other lantern, or the lantern in training, slept with. Come to find out, she's the grandmother to the child that we see, that was playing football. And what's weird about this family is, like, it seems like they never age, or they haven't aged in a while, so that's pretty weird. And he says, he's talking about colonization, but he's talking about the land that we're on right now. It was Kiowa and then Sioux. And he says, I'm not some crackpot isolationist with his head in the sand, but I am a student of history. Now, I have to go ahead and disagree with this man here. I'm getting really bad vibes that you probably are an isolationist, and maybe a crackpot, and maybe even, if you're not an alien, you might be something else. And what, as Watchmen 2019 pointed out, what could be worse than a big blue alien guy that got melted in a radiation thing? Racist. So he just goes on and he says colonization is ugly from any angle. He's barbecuing. There was a lot of beef imagery and, like, cattle, and when I was analyzing Watchmen a couple weeks ago, there was also allusions to beef farming and cattle. And in the play Oklahoma, there's a song about how the cattle are all standing still. And if you think about, like, on Westworld, when they had all the synths just standing there, they were kind of like cattle, right? And so at the end of Watchmen 2019, Angela, who is with Dr. Manhattan, it's kind of alluded to that she may have been a synth who now has the power of Dr. Manhattan. But when there's a song from Oklahoma, I don't know what it's called. It might just be called Oklahoma. Who knows? I don't I don't like that I don't like that song. I don't like that play. But it talks about the cattle, like I said, and the way that the lyrics were on the screen for her, it made it seem like, yeah, she's one of the cattle, but she's now awake. She's paying attention to what's going on around her. Next screenshot, we just have Jon Stewart playing football, or telling the kid how to aim the football. Don't force it. Just shoot the ball. And then he says, my dad used to shoot apples off my head. Amazing. Love that. Here's the lady that, here's the grandmother of the kid. And I don't trust this lady at all. Vibes bad. Also, why does she just looks so young? Which, okay, don't get me wrong, you can have young grandmothers, right? But, like, she looks the same age as these two do, or, like, as the other lady who looks like my age, which is 40. So how old is this lady? I don't know. Okay, and then the next thing I just wanted to go over real quick was Hal interrogating this alien, which was one of the best interrogation scenes I've ever seen. Not from, like, a technical perspective, but just from, this is really freaking funny. I feel like I'm watching Men in Black. And then the line about Barack Hussein Obama, I think everyone loved that. Okay, this is where we're going to get into Westworld. I am getting the feeling that Westworld has been playing a giant role in a lot of the shows that we've been seeing. And just the fact that Jon Stewart is drawing kind of like the profile shots that we see in Dr. Ford's office. I don't know if we ever see Arnold drawing, but I don't know. I just really like the side view of that. And okay, I want to jump over to what I think might be going on. And that's the whole reason why I'm making this video is I think, and I'm going to wrap this up into Marvel's The Avengers. I think that there's a multiversal crossover coming. And I think at the heart of it is Tom Cruise. And I've been saying that for months now, just based on other properties that I've been seeing. I think that something went very wrong, and Doctor Doom basically plucked all of the people that helped win the Cold War off of our timeline and put them. He basically did. If you've seen Loki, he basically did what was happening to the variants, where he just put them into this jail, and so everything that we saw on Loki was actually a spy jail. And I think the evidence for that, I mean, besides the fact that Tom Hiddleston looks like he belongs in every spy novelization movie thing ever, is when they're in the pie place, the key lime pie, and he's eating pie with Mobius. The way that the pie fridges are set up in the Ouroboros, if you read it like that, it's pies and spies. And so I think all of the consciousnesses of all these spies went into some Westworld situation. And or the other option is all of the souls that were tested on, or people that were tested on in World War II during the like death camps and work camps and things like that. I think they also went into places like this, which is why if there's ever more content coming to explain Stranger Things, I think it's going to go back into the past, and we're going to see what went on in the Polish work camps, and it's going to be rough. And I think what we're seeing with Fargo, the TV series, is a similar thing where these souls are getting reattached to new bodies, and they're having to like get their memories restored or like go through the actions in order to reset our timeline and put us back on the right path. And I think White Vision is going to have a lot to do to fix this. Now, before I end this, because I could talk forever about that, is in Top Gun Maverick, when Maverick is flying the Dark Star plane, these two are talking about, remember the contact threshold was marked 10, not 10.1. Now, something that's been happening across all these shows is a lot of double and triple entendres. And so when you go back and watch things a second or third time, things start to make a little, not that they make more sense, but things start to like kind of shift, and you start to look at things a little differently. And with this, with the contact threshold being Mach 10, I think Tom Cruise is going to get meta. Tom Cruise, the person, but Tom Cruise, the actor, basically catapulted himself into wherever the heck Westworld exists, right? Or wherever all these problems are happening with Doctor Doom, and or whatever rogue AI, whether it's Miss Minutes or Ultron or whatever, and he got himself into that world. And the chief here says that's to keep the program alive. Now, could he be talking about the naval program? Yeah, sure. But I think he might be talking about Tom Cruise, the actor, acting as Tom Cruise, being a Green Lantern. And I think he's been using Hal Jordan just as as a cover. So like Hal Jordan at one point maybe was real, but then Tom Cruise took it over as Hal Jordan. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but that's why I said at the beginning, with the information being as it is, with the captions and it being in front of the kid. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is when Hal is on the interview, it looks like he's wearing a mask. I mean, that has to be on purpose, obviously. It doesn't look like Kyle Chandler. But the last thing I want to point out is when Ethan Hunt gets revived in Ghost Protocol, and like, I think, yeah, Rebecca Ferguson saves him basically. Something weird happened, okay, that we didn't see. And I think she's basically like I think Rebecca Ferguson is either a Green Lantern or she's some other like divine power that's helping him do all this. And when he gets revived, he almost like he starts acting the way that Kyle Chandler is acting in this show. So I think I'm just saying, I think there's some kind of Tom Cruise thing going on here. And then going back to Top Gun Maverick here, this other screenshot says that this is the chief talking. It's not too late to stop, buddy. If you go through with this, um, you know what's going to happen to you. And he says, but then Maverick says, I know what happens to everyone else if I don't. Well, if our world is in peril because some maniac AI or Doctor Doom using that AI is about to literally doomsday us, he's trying to stop the world from ending. So that's what I think is happening. I can't wait to see everything play out. And then also with Doomsday, like I said, everywhere else, I don't believe anything that they've told us about that trailer for Doomsday is like real. I think it's all AI generated, and Loki's trying to fix stuff.